So that's it for the invoices. Next, we have the deposits. And I think I'm going to upload these to Dext also. So we're still in the sales inbox. Let's go ahead and add some documents. We'll add these two, bring them on over. And they've been processed that quickly. Well, they're in processing. Oh, and let's go over to, here they are. They're sitting in the inbox that quickly for us. Excellent. So something that I wanted to note is it couldn't actually find a date on the store sales. Well, on this, let's see what it is. On this register recap, we can see there's actually 3 different dates. And because of that, it didn't want to pick one, so it just defaulted to today's date. So the reason I'm pointing that out is because on the costs inbox, if you remember, I did say if you are focusing on just the current period to make sure you have everything in, make sure to look ahead because there might be flipped dates. But this is another reason that you want to look ahead, because if whatever document the person is uploading, Dext isn't able to figure out what date to put it, it just defaults to the date that it was uploaded. So that's another reason that when you're going through all of the uploads in the Dext, you want to sort of look at all of them and not just the ones for the period, especially if you're just sorting by date and focusing on the period you're working on. You do kind of need to go and look at all of them. So let's go ahead and look at this quote-unquote store sales. And we can see that it is register recap. If you remember, I did ask Sarah if she could do one on the last day of the month. And what we can see here is they've counted up the cash in the register. This is the sales as per how much was paid by cash for the week for those sales from the Shopify report. She hasn't been giving them to us weekly, just the monthly ones, but she uses them with her register reconciliation. We can see that there's no receipts paid by register cash, no other cash coming in. So what we're looking at really is just the over/under and that cash deposit. So we know from past register reconciliations we've done in this case study that all we need to worry about then is the over/under and also that cash deposit. So from the over/under, the ones that we've done in the past, they've always been positives. There's always been more in the cash register than what should be based on how much the sales say were paid by cash for the period. And because it's always been greater in our past examples than the closing cash, we've had to put in a deposit into register cash categorized to over/under. But in this case, it's a negative. We can see that there's $1588.35 in cold hard cash in the register, but based on the reports, there should be $1,589.14. So it's off by 79 cents. It's too low by 79 cents. So instead of this time it being a deposit to register cash, this time we need to put in an expense paid by register cash. And the other thing that we need to put in is this cash deposit. Now, we can't put in deposits via Dext. We're going to have to do that manually. So let's jump on over and see if just the even 1,000 went in on July 2nd, or if it was a combined deposit that had maybe some cash and some checks. So let's go over to QBO, and here we are. I'm in the Canada Bank Checking bank feed. And there is our branch deposit for $1,000 on July 2nd. And according to this register recap, that is all register cash. So it's not a combined deposit. So while we're here, let's go ahead and categorize this. We want to put this to register cash. That is to say we're moving money from register cash into the Canada Bank Checking. It's at a scope, and we can say that it's coming from the store sales. There it is. And I'm going to go ahead and just hit post. Excellent. So let's go back over to Dext. We've put that cash deposit in. Next, what we need to do is put in the over/under expense. Now we are, if you remember, in the sales, and if I want to enter an expense, I can actually move this document from sales to the costs section. So now I'm in the costs well, I've moved it to the cost section. Let me go over to costs. Here it is in the cost section. Let's pull it up. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to say that it's not an invoice. It is a statement, let's say. And it is the supplier. We have to have a supplier if we're syncing from Dext. We can't leave that blank. So, and we haven't created sort of a register cash supplier. We've always called this sort of coming, the over under we've always said has come from store sales. But since Dext really wants us to put in only a supplier, you can see we can't choose store sales from Dext. It limits us. Let's just call this register under, like that, as the vendor name. So we can add that. And the reference number, we can say register recap June 30th. And the category, oh, that date, sorry, I forgot to change the date. We want this expense to go in on June 30th, 2025. Doesn't like the date that I put it in as. So I'll click. There it is, June 30th. Oh, it thinks that this is too long, so let's just put this to reg recap like that. There we go. And then the category, like I said, it's going to be the over-under expense account. Customer store sales, sure. The total amount, this is where I'm going to put in that 0.79 expense. And the payment method, so this 79 cents, we're going to reduce the balance of register cash. So if we pull down, register cash hasn't been added yet, but we can add a payment method, and we can actually call this register cash. And we'll say that the bank account is register cash, like that. And I'm going to add that right now. And you can see that means it's linked to a GL account in QBO. And it's published to cash, so the expense screen. So let's go ahead and publish that. It's reminding us that it's adding a new vendor name or supplier name, so we're good to go with that. And as it publishes, successfully published, let's come over to the QBO. And we can find, there's that expense that we just entered. And this is what it looks like in QBO. You can see we've put in an expense. The payee is register under, paid out of register cash, the expense account. So that is an expense account. There it is. It is an expense account. The expense is increasing by 79 and nothing to do with HST. So we're happy. And also we can see that the register recap is attached to the transaction because we put it in through Dext. So now that we have the over-under in and the cash deposit in, what else can we do with this register recap sheet? Well, I did ask that Sarah do a register recap on June 30th, no matter what the cadence. So whether she's doing her register recap daily or weekly, I did request that she do one on June 30th, on the last day of every month, so that we can reconcile the register cash account on the bookkeeping at the end of every single month. So what we have here is, as of June 30th, we have $1,588.35 in cash in the register as of June 30th. And if we have received all of the register recap sheets from the first of the month to the 30th, or to the last day of the month, then what we would have had is not just what the over and under was as compared to the sales noted as paid by cash in the register, but also a list of any of the receipts that were paid by cash out of the register. And again, I don't enter the receipts from the list. It's just a list of receipts to make sure I have in the system and noted as paid by register cash, and also any other cash coming in. So some other examples of cash coming in that I've seen, not just from the bank, so a bank deposit. So sometimes they'll take money out of the cash register and deposit it in, all the big notes, and then maybe they'll withdraw certain coins or smaller currencies that they need when they are at the store and selling things and need to make change. So other cash in can simply just be change from the bank. And I've also seen other cash in, for example, what if there was somebody who had paid a deposit for garden landscaping and they gave the deposit in cash, and instead of putting like the $200 cash into the bank, Sarah put $200 cash into the cash register. So there are other instances where cash is coming into the register outside of the Shopify sales report, and we want to make note of that as well. So if we have had all of these register recap sheets for the month of June, and the over-under, we've entered all of those. We've entered all of the deposits into the bank correctly, all of the deposits into the register cash outside of the Shopify sales report correctly. And if we've got all of the receipts in, then our general ledger account for register cash should show on June 30th, $1,588.35. So let us go now back to QBO, and let's go and look at that GL account for cash. I'm going to go to reports. I'm going to go to the balance sheet, and let's change this to the month of June. And we can go to the register cash right here, looking good, 1588.35. And we can see here that it starts at 0, and that is because Sarah in May, she was just not tracking her register cash at all. What she was doing in May, she was just putting cash into the bank as per whatever Shopify said, this is how much was paid by cash for the week. And that's the only reason that our register cash went to 0. But she wasn't confirming that there wasn't any like over under or anything missed cash receipts with her cash register. She wasn't reconciling her register cash. Starting June, that's when she started to use these register recap sheets. And because of that, we were able to, in June, put in when there was over under and put in whenever there were any register cash receipts. So given the fact that we've caught everything that's gone on in the register, including those over unders, as of June 30th, 1,588.35, 1588.35. That is what is in the cash register as of June 30th. Now, we just looked at the general ledger account, but if you want to sort of document that you've looked and you're reconciling this, or to make sure that somebody doesn't pop something in June after you've checked it and kind of throw you off, what we can do is we can go to Transactions Reconcile, and we can reconcile the register cash. And we know that the statement ending balance for June 30th is 1588.35. And that is as of June 30th. So let's go ahead and start reconciling. And because this is not connected to a bank feed, it's just the register cash, nothing has been checked off for us. We have to do it the old school way. Now let us just clear out the May like this. So you can see these three total 7,967.92. We're back to that difference of 1588.35. And if for any reason your general ledger account as of June 30th for your register cash is not 1,588.35, if it's not matching that register recap, well, you've got to do it the old school way. So basically you'd get all of your register recap sheets for the month, and you'd pull up the first one, and the first one would show you the $100 in and the over under and the cash deposit. So you can say, oh, the register recap sheet, yep, it says this, it says this, it says this. And you would just keep flipping through each of your register recap sheets, and that's where you'll find the incongruency of why your register cash on your bookkeeping does not match the register cash balance at the actual store. But we've had a sneak peek at our general ledger. We know that it does end at the number we want, so we can just select all of these. Yes, select all. And now we can say finish now. And we are done. So that is it for the June 30th register recap. Let's go back to Dext. We'll go back to the sales. And now let's take a look at the next item for us to review. And what this is, we've seen this before, or something like this before in the case study. What this is a specific breakdown of one of the square payments for the month. Basically showing that paid by Square was $17.21 and that the amount that's gone into the bank is $1,708.02, meaning to say the fees for this one specific transaction is $12.98. Now, the reason we needed to ask Sarah for this actually is in order to reconcile the Square clearing account, there is a deposit that is a combination of a June 30th Square payment and a July Square payment. And because if we're reconciling the Square sales for June, because of that combined payment, we need to know the breakdown of what part of that payment from Square is related to this June sale and what portion of that payment is related to the July. So all that being said, there is nothing that we need to do right now with this specific document, but when we do our Square clearing reconciliation at the end of the month, when we get the Square sales summary in the statements folder, we'll need to come back and take a look at this in order to be able to finish our Square clearing reconciliation. So that is it for our deposits for June week number 5. Next, let's move on to payroll.